These are only left for expressions to be. These are only left for expressions to be. Not for the melancholy, for the understanding of your philosophy. We're not to be in a dream state here. To open up and wait the emptiness to appear, to find the words to get lost in yourself, for you despite myself, for despite for the entire word, for the God, for despite that devil, for the hooligan and this and I love you. Whether I'm happy or sad and I love you, do with me you will. The correspondence again, the fragments of which we held tightly for the long while, for the feeling of no code, for the weariness of anything the earth can touches. You can go to sleep, my love, and hold me and see fearful dream. That translation can never guess that I'll hide the dead heart inside of me. Just don't want to do a thing rather than I feel like it, I want to fly. Not the character for the angry soul, but the fineness about the poignancy was only that she said and held her head and lived it with it strange and far off, and yet so intimate. She was far away from the presence and so close to the soul, not living for the apparent life of their days and belonged to somewhere else. My gift was born out of tragedy and loss, give and take as someone's current, a differential, a husband in need. People seem so nice until you get to know them, and they take advantage for the not for the dinner, for the dare, for the bringing of the flowers and the honey of a sweet song, for the went out to look out the moon and turn pale midnight, for the proposing gift of something explosive, for the beautiful and enigmatic of the human. Like a change to a siren from far from life, close to death, for the shelter, the gate for no more, for the earth without birth, bigger my part, for the slipping of the ocean to the heart, for the plunging of the green wedge and the washing of itself, for the upon the floor, for the bird to rise off the floor, for the rotting in time and alone, for the stupid doing blue hands, for the spin of the cocoon to fly away, make an effect for my love poems, to be profound for the angel-minded sweetheart, who will understand the absolute favors and the correspondence of what you can find and experiment, and focus on the last of these, and not be the depression of the friends will ever doing whoever absolutely concealing the fact that they're having a hard time. Something to have essential personality, character, genius, and compassion for everything is better with the music, maybe with the drinking of something making you cheer from playing inside of that elegant sweet mind of yours, for the believing that you can rise, for the red dust will explode with the light. Watching you slowly combine everything, journals, thoughts, recommendations, insecurities. Being inside of her was like being inside of her own room with the being inside of a painting. Relearning to enjoy the things and done with my life. Let me tell you that kisses are rather in the words in which I can say I love you. But was it reciprocated for the dagger inside the wound again? 1 February. Thought of a face for the truth because I cannot find the elude for the suffering, for the suffering mask for deeper truth, for the terrorists behind all suffering lies that great. Perhaps, at the same time, delicate before delicate, for the voice breaks too close to meet my love in violent fashion. Catching my time between the running of it forever. Look at her again for the measuring of self and what I can express and feel for the love. Be it woman for the bathe away, for the gliding on, for the body for the giving and the laugh, and not the gravely sand that takes on my tears to the land. Another someone's prayer for the panning and planning for just to fall into the arms because of the belief undoes your disbelief. And the dominations for a special person. Her beauty was stern and commanding for genuine. And these are only left for expressions to be. Not for the melancholy, for the understanding of your philosophy. We're not to be in a dream state here. To open up and wait the emptiness to appear, to find the words to get lost in yourself, for you despite myself, for despite for the entire word, for the God, for despite that devil, for the hooligan and this and to love you. Whether I'm happy or sad and I love you, do with me you will. And the correspondence again with fragments of which we held tightly for the long while, for the feeling of no code, for the weariness of anything the earth can touch us. You can go to sleep, my love, and hold me, it's a fearful dream. And translation.
Kip for how you could realize how desperately he loved her. That he had craved her with love and all his heart for thee until the moment that hath him doubted and she didn't love him back. Mean Kip for how you could realize how desperately he loved her. That he had craved her with love and all his heart for thee until the moment that hath him doubted and she didn't love him back. I am not sorry to tell that I am not someone's metaphor. I'm more than a fragment of word and speech you could say anything to for the darkening stanzas. Mean Kip for how you could realize how desperate. Mean Kip for how you could realize how desperately. Mean Kip for how you could realize how desperately he loved her. But he had craved her with love and all his heart for thee until the moment that hath him doubted and she didn't love him back. I am not sorry to tell that I am not someone's metaphor. I'm more than a fragment of word and speech you could say anything to for the darkening extends yourself for the breathing into the cruel of the casual to something kind. You're walking home in the dark for the succession of these categories can go on for the being of kind, for the collection of words, for these for I protect myself for the castles of love, for the devouring heat for your fire, the color of you, for the need to see this, for the holding myself close to the anxiety, for the strength, and I am the shadow suggestion, memory of a house of a spirit, hold my place in my fear. February rose are like flames that warm the cold moon on a winter night. You stream, and I yearn for the perfect disappearance. I remember that first time you smiled for the insight and intuition, endurance, and tenacious love and keen sensing, singing over the dead for the initiative and the healing, for the kindness and the bringing into yourself, for the integrating, for the lone wolf, and I need to recharge my soul now. How do I know if these feelings of the poem is even real for the blood taste sultry to the sweet, for the lips provoking of the silken touch, and my heart is full of the February longings, and in a short month like an animal licking the womb for the fresh forest depths and no sound. I'm going home. I failed to please my soul, for the vague tenderness and would astonish my flesh, and the fragments that I'm found of the lovers but I cannot love, and I am too far away from the banished. Yes, obsessed and all with the vanishing of time. My thoughts of thorns and sharp edges, and there's no comprehending of just how close the bone for the skin of the eye, the lips, and you can get for the still feeling of the lone, for the still feeling related. The worst things come stalking in the early night, in the morning for the bed, for the looking worse than you. You see it's the woman for the you really love, and she was dressed in all black for melancholy, apparently you're rather small for the slight. Beneath the long black cloak for the she wore a bonnet like an unhastily, and seeing her for the forwardness of the current. Absorbed for the flitting and fitting of the motion for the past, again unseen for everybody was arrested by the development for the quiet, for the art, for the keeping of the calm. And this poem is not for the forgiving, for the driving me insane, for the taking the restless heart, for the restless sea, for there was an inner relay, the logic of the soul for which connected, not to be surprised for those idealized and idealized to turn out to be the human. That is filling over the next excess, for this is the measure for the in-self, for the proportion of the nature, fulfilling always right sides, and this is never deficient, excessive for the needs and neither, for the bridal, for nor, for the spur, for the negations, for all the out, for the eye can awakening, for the ears and ear, for the heart, for the eye can beat the some kind of whatever mermaid, for the grief without breaking the winds, and the breaking of the weeds, and the seeking the riot, for the opening of the mouth, and it was nothing but the worst until them, but the any more for the hundreds of thousands of lies and mysteries and Lack of translation for every feeling I have is crushed and bruised. In correspondence to what I may look at all the sounds all around, the signs that you can find themselves in observing for and intimately perceiving it to be draped like a fragile blossom for the room. It was blazed. My wings are clipped and she set me free for the availability for just a little, for the wings are not clipped but are set by your own will. You're still in love with no one. I'm afraid to stop feeling for myself, for he stopped and she died. My life depended on what I felt. Stop loving me for the stop for the breathing, for wanting to feel for everyone else and the foot on top of me, for I was still living. These are just dreamscapes in the empty waiting of a pure, for the words got lost inside of the woods, as though it was in a wood. Mean tip for how you could realize how desperately he loved her, but he had craved her with love and all his heart for thee until the moment that half him doubted when she didn't love him back. I'm not sorry to tell that I am not someone's metaphor. I'm more than a fragment of word for the speech you could say anything to, for the dark and extends itself, for the breathing into the cruel, of the casual, the something kind. And walking home in the dark, for the succession of these categories can go on, for the being of kind, for the collection of words, for these, for I protect myself, for the castles of love, for the devouring heat, for your fire. Color of you, for the not need to see this, for the holding myself close to the anxiety, for the strength, and I am the shadow suggestion, memory of a house of the spirit, hold my place in my fear. February rose are like flames that warm the cold moon on a winter night. You stream, and I yearn for the perfect disappearance. I remember that first time. You smiled for the insight, intuition, endurance, and tenacious loving, keen sensing, singing over the dead for the initiative and the healing, for the kindness and the bringing into yourself, for the integrating, for the lone wolf, and I need to recharge my soul now. How do I know if these feelings of the poem is even real? For the blood taste sultry, for the sweet, for the lipstick provoking of the silken touch, and my heart is full of the February longings, and in a short month, like an animal licking the womb, for the fresh forest depths and no sound. I'm going home. I failed to please my soul. For the vague tenderness and would astonish my flesh, and the fragrance that I'm found of the lovers what I cannot love, and I am too far away from the vanish. Yes, obsessed and all with the vanishing of time. Thoughts of thorns and sharp edges, and there's no comprehending of just how close the bone for the skin of the eye and lips and you can get for the still feeling of the lone, for the still feeling related. The worst things come stalking in the early night in the morning for the bed, for the looking worse, and to see is the woman for the you really love, and she was dressed in all black for melancholy, apparently you're rather small for the slight. Beneath the long black cloak, for that she wore a bonnet like an unhastily, and the seeing her for the forwardness of the current. Absorbed for the flitting and fitting of the motion for the passing and the unseen, for everybody was arrested by the development for the quiet, for the art, for the keeping of the calm. This poem is not for the forgiving, for the driving me insane, for the taking the restless heart, for the restless sea, for there was an inner relay. The logic of the soul for which connected. Not to be surprised for those idealized and idealized to turn out to be the human. That is filling over the next excess, for this is the measure for the itself, for the proportion of the nature, for feeling always right sides, and this is never deficient. Excessive for the needs and neither, for the bridle, for nor, for the spur, for the negations. For all the outer, for the eye can awakening, for the ears and ear, for the heart, for the eye can be the some kind of whatever mermaid, for the grief without breaking the good winds and the breaking of the weeds and the seeking the riot, for the opening of the mouth, and it was nothing but the worst until them anymore, for the hundreds of thousands. The lies and mysteries and lack of translation for every feeling I have is crushed and bruised. In correspondence to what I may look at all the sounds all around, the signs that you can find themselves in observing for and intimately perceiving it to be draped like a fragile blossom for the room. It was blazed. My wings are clipped and mean tip for how you could realize how desperately he loved her. But he had craved her with love and all his heart for thee until the moment that half him doubted when she didn't love him back. I'm not sorry to tell that I am not someone's metaphor. I'm more than a fragment of word for speech you could say anything to, for the dark and extends yourself, for the breathing into, the cruel of the casual, the something kind. You're walking home in the dark, for the succession of these categories can go on, for the being of kind, for the collection of words, for these, for I protect myself, for the castles of love, for the devouring heat, for your fire, the color of you, for the not need to see this, for the holding myself close, to the anxiety, for the strength, and I am the shadow suggestion, memory of a house of a spirit, hold my place in my fear. February rose are like flames that warm the cold moon on a winter night. You stream, and I yearn for the perfect disappearance. I remember that first time you smiled, for the insight and intuition, endurance, and tenacious loving, keen sensing, singing over the dead, for the initiative and the healing, for the kindness and the bringing into yourself, for the integrating, for the lone wolf, and I need to recharge my soul now. How do I know if these feelings of the poem is even real? For the blood taste sultry to the sweet, for the lips provoking of the silken touch, and my heart is full of the February longings, and the short month like an animal licking the womb for the fresh.
These are only left for expressions to be, not for the melancholy, for the understanding of your philosophy. You're not to be in a dream state here, to open up and wait the emptiness to appear, to find the words to get lost in yourself, or the you despite the myself, for the spite for the entire word, for the God, for the spite that devil, for the who. These are only left for expressions to be, not for the melancholy, for the understanding of your philosophy. You're not to be in a dream state here, to open up and wait the emptiness to appear, to find the words to get lost in yourself, or the you despite the myself, for the spite for the entire word, for the God, for the spite that devil, for the who can and listen to love you. Whether I'm happy or sad and I love you, do with me you will. And the correspondence again with the fragments of what you held tightly for the long while, for the feeling of a no code, for the weariness of anything the earth can touch us. But you can go to sleep, my love, and hold me, it's a fearful dream. That translation can never guess that I've had the dead heart inside of me. Just don't want to do a thing rather than I feel like it, I want to. If I'm not in the character for the anger, sir, but the fineness about the poignancy was only that she said and held her head, lived it for the strange and far off, and yet so intimate. She was far away from the presence of so close, she was so not living for the apparent life of her days and belonged to somewhere else. My gift was born out of tragedy and loss. Give and take as someone is current, a differential, a husband in need. People seem so nice until you get to know them, and they take advantage for the night, to do the temple for the deer, for the bringing of the flowers and the honey of a sweet song, for the went out to look out the moon, and turn pale midnight for the proposing gift of something explosive, for the beautiful and enigmatic of the human. Like a change to a siren for far, for life, close to death, for the shelter, the gate, for no more, for the earth, for the I rip in my park, for the stilling of the ocean to the heart, for the plunging of the green wedge and wash to be yourself, for the fall on the floor, for the bird to rise off the floor, for the running of time and alone, for the stupid and blurriness, for the spin of the cocoon to fly away. Make an effect for my love poems would be profound for the angel-minded sweetheart. Whoever understands the absolute favors and the correspondence is what you can find in experimenting. And focus on the last of these, and not be the depression of the friends, but ever doing absolutely concealing of the fact for that having a hard time. It's something to have a essential personality or character or lenience and compassion for everything is better with the music, maybe with the drinking of something and making you cheer for playing inside of that elegant, sweet mind of yours, for the believing that you can rise, for the red dust and will explode with the light. Watching you slowly combine everything. Journals, thoughts, recommendations, insecurities. Being inside of her was like being inside of her own room with the being inside of a painting. No relearning to enjoy things and done with my life. And let me tell you, the kisses were rather in the words in which I can say I love you. But was it reciprocated for the dagger inside the wound again? 1 February. Thought of a face for the truth, because I cannot find the elude for the suffering mask, the deeper truth for the terrors behind all suffering lies that great. Perhaps, at the same time, delicate before delicate, for the voice breaks too close to meet my love in violent fashion. Catching my time between the running of it forever. To look at her again for the measuring of self and what I can express and feel for the love. Be it woman for the bathe wave, for the glided on, for the body, for the giving and the laugh, and not the gravely sand that takes on my tears to the land. Another someone's prayer for the banning and planning for just to fall into the arms because of the belief undoes your disbelief. And dominations for a special person. Her beauty was stern and commanding for genuine. And these are only left for expressions to be, not for the melancholy, for the understanding of your philosophy. We're not to be in the dream state here, to open up and wait the emptiness.